What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 23:12 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Mexico. Apparently, Mexico has reported the world's first human case of H5N2 bird flu in a 59-year-old who died from the flu. The 59-year-old resident has been hospitalized in Mexico City and died on April 24th after developing a fever, shortness of breath, diarrhea, nausea, and general discomfort. This was reported by the World Health Organization. Okay, so the World Health Organization confirming that we have the first human case of bird flu and somebody dying from it, the H5N2. Okay, so this is very, very serious. In Mexico City, that's not far from our borders here, guys. And with our open borders, I would not be surprised if that bird flu works its way into the US from Mexico if there's some type of a small outbreak over there or a cluster of cases. And just yesterday, there was a report about multiple house mice in New Mexico, the state, that tested positive for bird flu. Okay, so get prepared, guys. This could be disease X. Okay, remember on New Year's when the World Health Organization had their meeting and they said that they're very concerned about disease X. Well, it could be this bird flu, guys. Okay, so get prepared. Want to update you on the situation in Europe and in the Middle East and in Asia. We continue to see escalations. So Putin made some more threats today against NATO. He said, we can send our long range weapons to regions where we can direct attacks against countries that supply weapons to Ukraine. Okay, so he's talking about moving long range missile systems to parts of Russia closer to, let's say, Poland or Finland or Romania, etc. And Putin also said that Russia is considering supplying weapons to other countries or actors in different parts of the world that could potentially strike areas where the US and NATO are supplying weapons to Ukraine. Okay, so he's talking about giving long range weapons to actors in other parts of the world that could potentially strike American allies that are giving weapons to Ukraine, like Poland, for example. Poland would be the number one target because in southeastern Poland, in the city of Rzeszów, there's the international airport over there where all NATO weapons are funneled into Ukraine. Okay, so that would be a major target. So potentially Putin could give weapons to, let's say, Serbia or maybe even the Transnistrians, okay, the breakaway region of Moldova, and they could strike Rzeszów or maybe Belarus or who knows, maybe Cuba, Venezuela, okay? And he also said that Russia is going to be doing military technical exercises with China. So that is very, very concerning, guys. This update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply has brought back their 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you got to use the link preparewithnyprepper.com. And the link is in the description below this video. But this 3-month emergency food supply has a 25-year shelf life. It includes over 2,000 calories per day, breakfasts, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks, all contained within 6 rugged water-resistant buckets, and free shipping is included. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $200 off or 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply. The link is in the description below this video. Free shipping is included. They also have a general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running various discounts. And to get to their general store, you just got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo when you get to preparewith.nyprepper.com at the top of the page, and you'll see their general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running discounts here. So use the link preparewith.nyprepper.com to get 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply, and the link is in the description below this video. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday he could deploy conventional missiles within striking distance of the U.S. and its European allies if they allowed Ukraine to strike deeper into Russia with long-range Western weapons. Putin, in his first face-to-face meeting with senior editors of international news agencies since the war in Ukraine began, said the West was wrong to assume Russia would never use nuclear weapons, and said the Kremlin's nuclear doctrine should not be taken lightly. Wow, guys. Okay, so this is very concerning. All right, Putin is getting annoyed, and he's going to push the button soon. When we asked about NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg's call to allow Ukraine to use Western weapons to strike Russian territory, Putin differentiated between different missiles, but warned allowing Kyiv to strike Russia with ever more powerful weapons was a serious escalation that was drawing the West towards a war with Russia. Russia's response, the 71-year-old Kremlin chief said, would be to shoot down the Western missiles, and specifically mentioned US ATACMS and British and French missile systems. Putin also said Moscow was considering deploying similar high-technology long-range missiles close enough to strike the states that allowed Ukraine to strike Russian territory with such missiles. If we see that these countries are being drawn into a war against the Russian Federation, then we reserve the right to act in the same way. In general, this is a path to very serious problems, Putin said. Putin did not give specifics of where he was considering delivering such missiles. President Joe Biden authorized Kyiv to launch some U.S.-supplied weapons at military targets in Russia. Washington still prohibits Kyiv from striking Russia with ATACMS, which have a range of 186 miles, and other long-range U.S.-supplied weapons. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron, during a visit to Kyiv on May 3rd, told Reuters Ukraine had a right to use the weapons provided by Britain to strike targets inside Russia, and it was up to Kyiv to decide whether to do so. Speaking to journalists for more than 3 hours at the newly built 81-floor Gazprom Tower ahead of the annual St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, Putin touched on subjects from the war in Gaza to the upcoming U.S. election. No one in the United States is interested in Ukraine. They are interested in the greatness of the United States, which is fighting not for Ukraine and the Ukrainian people, but for its own greatness. Putin said Russia did not care who the next U.S. president was, but said the U.S. court system was clearly being used in a political battle against Republican nominee Donald Trump. They are burning themselves from the inside, their state, their political system. It is obvious all over the world that the prosecution of Trump, especially in court, on charges that were formed on the basis of events that happened years ago without direct proof, is simply using the judicial system in an internal political struggle, said Putin. When asked about the risk of nuclear war, Putin said Russia's nuclear doctrine allowed the use of such weapons. For some reason, the West believes that Russia will never use it, Putin said when asked by Reuters about the risk of nuclear escalation over Ukraine during more than 3 hours of questioning. We have a nuclear doctrine. Look what it says. If someone's actions threaten our sovereignty and territorial integrity, we consider it possible for us to use all means at our disposal. This should not be taken lightly or superficially. Russia's published 2020 nuclear doctrine sets out the conditions under which a Russian president would consider using a nuclear weapon, broadly as a response to an attack using nuclear or other weapons of mass destruction, or to the use of conventional weapons against Russia when the very existence of the state is put under threat. Putin casts the conflict in Ukraine as part of an existential battle with a declining and decadent West, which he says humiliated Russia after the Berlin Wall fell in 1989 by encroaching on what he considers Moscow's sphere of influence, including Ukraine. Putin said the West refused to speak about the causes of the war, which he said started in 2014 after a pro-Russian president was toppled in Ukraine's Maidan revolution. Putin cast it as a US-backed coup. You should not make Russia out to be the enemy. You're only hurting yourself with this, Putin said. They thought that Russia wanted to attack NATO. Have you gone completely crazy? That is as thick as this table. Who came up with this? It is just complete nonsense, total rubbish. So, very strong statements from Putin, basically saying that he could use nuclear weapons, that Russia could use nuclear weapons, that the West is underestimating that, and threatening to put missiles close to Europe that could strike European countries that are sending weapons to Ukraine, and potentially giving weapons to other countries that could strike those countries that give weapons to Ukraine. So this is very, very serious, guys. The situation is really, really escalating between Russia and NATO, and I believe it's all going to spiral out of control this summer when these Western weapons flood Ukraine, and they're going to start using those weapons against Russian territory now. Not only that, they're going to start using American F-16s in Ukraine. And then on top of that, NATO is talking about sending troops into Ukraine. Okay, France has already sent quote unquote advisors and trainers, and Russia said that it's fair game for them to take out those French instructors, okay, to kill them. Even though they're not combatants, but they're saying that they have a right to take them out because they're participating in the war, even as instructors. So you see how this can now escalate, okay? And then plus us sending F-16s over there. And I'm almost 100% positive when we send the F-16s there that Ukraine is going to use them over Russian territory, over Crimea, over the Crimean Bridge. Okay, otherwise it would be pointless for them to have F-16s if they can't actually fly into Russian territory. What would be the purpose of having those F-16s to begin with? It wouldn't make any sense. Okay, so this is very, very serious, guys. Okay, and now the U.S. allowing Ukraine to conduct deep strikes. They're already discussing it, and I'm almost 100% positive they're going to approve Ukraine to use their weapons to conduct deep strikes, okay? So things are really spiraling out of control. On top of that, we're hearing that the U.S. has been tracking Russian warships and aircraft that are expected to arrive in the Caribbean for a military exercise in the coming weeks in a Russian show of force as tensions rise over Western military support for Ukraine, U.S. officials said Wednesday. The ships also are expected possibly to make port calls in Venezuela and Cuba as Russia establishes a Western Hemisphere military presence that the senior Biden administration officials said was notable but not concerning. Of course, they're going to say it's not concerning. The exercise, which will be monitored by the U.S. military, will involve a handful of Russian ships and support vessels, the two officials said. It's not the first time Russia has sent its ships to the Caribbean. This exercise, however, is taking place as Russian President Vladimir Putin has suggested that Moscow could take asymmetrical steps elsewhere in the world in response to President Joe Biden's decision to allow Ukraine to use U.S.-provided weapons to strike inside Russia to protect Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. And by the way, Ukraine has already destroyed an S-400 missile system in Russia, okay? The S-400 missile system is one of Russia's best missile systems. It's an air defense, okay? It's similar to our Patriot system. It's a top-of-the-line air defense, and Ukraine destroyed it with a HIMARS, so I'm sure Russia's not going to be happy about that, and that could be a sign that Ukraine is prepping the battlefield, okay? They're trying to take out air defenses. You see what Ukraine has been doing? They took out 3 long-range radars in Russia already, and now they took out this S-400 in Belgorod. They also took out a bunch of S-400s in Crimea as well. So you see what Ukraine is doing. They're slowly prepping the battlefield. They're destroying Russia's air defenses. Why? So they can fly in and deliver weapons from these F-16s over Russian territory, so they can fly over all these areas in Russia where Russia has all their artillery systems parked, and they can just fly over and destroy them all. Okay. So this is very concerning, guys. All right. The officials who spoke to reporters on the condition of anonymity to provide details that had not been announced publicly said the exercise is certainly part of a broader Russian response to the U.S. support for Ukraine, but is also an effort by Putin to show his Navy is still capable of global power projection after losing several ships to Ukrainian strikes. Ukrainian military officials said in March that Russia had lost 1/3 of its Black Sea fleet to Ukrainian strikes during the past 2 years of the war. Russia did not notify the U.S. of the pending exercise, but the ship's movements have been tracked by the U.S. Navy, the officials said. Despite Russia not notifying the U.S., which countries often do to avoid miscalculation, the officials said militaries all over the globe have the right to conduct exercises in international waters and do so regularly. For example, on Friday, about 20 NATO countries, including the U.S., will begin BALT Ops, a major naval and air exercise in the Baltic Sea near Russia. The officials said they expect the Russian ships will remain in the region through the summer and will likely conduct similar follow-up exercises in the Caribbean after this one concludes. The officials said Congress was notified of the upcoming Russian exercises on Wednesday. So this is huge, guys. Russia bringing a bunch of warships over into the Caribbean, and they're going to stay here all summer long. Why is that? Because if things escalate in Ukraine, they can strike us from the Caribbean. Okay, they're going to keep their warships there. They probably have their nuclear subs in the Caribbean as well with ballistic missiles. So if things escalate, they can nuke us. Okay, but this is very, very concerning, guys. This could be like a Cuban Missile Crisis in the making now. Okay, the F-16 training program for Ukraine has reportedly stalled out, and over the past several weeks, Kiev has officially requested that the U.S. train additional pilots, but the U.S. has cited commitments to other nations in line for F-16 training. Okay, so the U.S. is denying Ukraine's request to train more pilots. So the F-16 training is taking a long time. Okay, training a pilot on an F-16 is not like teaching someone how to drive a car. Okay, you're talking about very sophisticated equipment, avionics, very different from the Soviet fighter jets that the Ukrainians have been using. Okay, it's like learning a new language. It's not good enough to just know how to say hello, how are you? You have to be able to speak to people fluently, right? And how long does it take to learn another language? It doesn't take 6 months. It takes a year, maybe 2, before you're comfortable enough to be fluent. Yeah, they can teach these pilots the basics. This is how you drop a bomb. This is how you take off. This is how you land. But you have to understand that Ukraine is going to be flying in very heavily guarded airspace. Okay, Russia has been preparing for this. They know that Ukraine is going to be getting F-16s, so they're setting up all their air defenses to shoot them down when they arrive. Okay, so this is not going to be, like the U.S. bombarding Iraq. Okay, where Iraq had like no air defenses and it was just like super easy. They could just fly over and bombard everything. Okay, they're going to be going up against Russia's best air defenses. So they have to not only know the basics, they have to be very good. Okay, they have to be as good as the best American pilots or even better in order to be able to operate in contested airspace like that. Okay, so it's not going to happen in 6 months. It's going to take a while. Otherwise, they're going to send them to Ukraine and then they're just going to get shot down, and that, jet that's worth, billions of dollars is going to be gone. So they have to train them a lot. It's not just good enough, oh, this is how you fly. This is your steering wheel. This is how you drop a bomb. It has to be, very advanced training. Okay. So keep that in mind. And Ukraine hit another oil refinery in Russia tonight. This is the Novoshakinsky oil refinery. Let me just play this video for you. You can see this oil refinery just burning like crazy. I don't know what kind of weapon they used, if they used drones or long-range missiles, but another oil refinery taken down by Ukraine tonight. And on Wednesday, 12 European Union countries, including Poland, called on the Belgian EU presidency to start accession negotiations with Ukraine and Moldova. And Finnish border guards began to regularly notice objects floating in the air just near their border with Russia, according to the deputy commander of the border service in North Karelia. So, very interesting. It sounds like Russia is sending some reconnaissance drones or balloons or something near the border with Russia. Very interesting. And I did report a few days ago that Russia was going to start moving these giant balloons, reconnaissance balloons, to the border of Finland. And Poland is actually buying several giant reconnaissance balloons worth billions of dollars from, I think, Lockheed Martin. And they're just going to have them floating around near the border with Belarus. And we have some very concerning information coming out of the Middle East tonight. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Israel and Hezbollah are moving closer to a full-scale war after months of escalating hostilities amid pressure on Netanyahu's government to secure its northern border. Okay, and what you're looking at here is some video footage coming out of southern Lebanon tonight. Israel launched some massive airstrikes on southern Lebanon tonight in retaliation for more Hezbollah strikes earlier today. Hezbollah attacked an Israeli army barracks, causing dozens of soldiers to be injured, and we're hearing of at least 2 deaths, okay? But dozens of Israeli soldiers injured very seriously, and 2 Israeli soldiers killed by a Hezbollah rocket attack. Here's another video showing this massive strike on some kind of building in southern Lebanon. Look at this thing, absolutely insane. So Israel striking back, but it does appear that Israel is going to go after Hezbollah now. They may pause Rafah and go after Hezbollah. Okay, and yesterday I reported that Iran has sent formal warnings to the U.S. through third parties that if Israel goes into Lebanon to try to take out Hezbollah, then Iran is going to directly attack Israel, okay? And Iran has thousands of missiles, and I do believe they even have nuclear warheads already. And if Iran attacks Israel again, then the U.S. is going to have to get involved, and they're going to have to annihilate all of Iran's missile facilities and nuclear storage sites. And they're going to have to use potentially low-yield tactical nuclear warheads to do it, because these missile sites are all under mountains. Iran is a mountainous country, and I've showed you guys on live streams before all these bunkers. Iran has like thousands of bunkers across their country where they've built these giant bunkers into giant mountains that are thousands of feet high. Okay, there's no way a Tomahawk missile or even a strong thermobaric weapon is going to do damage to a facility like that. You need a nuclear warhead or some kind of special penetrating conventional bomb, okay? So this is a very serious situation, and it's continuing to spiral out of control. Here's another picture from southern Lebanon, massive airstrikes by Israel tonight. Here we have a video showing Israeli fighter jets flying over Beirut.
Allahu Akbar.
Some kind of loud kaboom. I'm not sure what that was, but you can see here the Israeli fighter jets dropping flares to distract any kind of potential air defenses over Beirut, okay? But this is serious, guys.
الله أكبر. هلا بالمباطيء.
And Hezbollah released video footage of them apparently destroying an Iron Dome launcher. So here we have the video footage showing some kind of missile hitting an Iron Dome launcher in northern Israel. Check this out. And boom, there it is. So Israel's definitely not happy about that. So very, very concerning, guys. And Israeli News 12, citing sources, is reporting that the Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz wants a Gaza ceasefire and to shift military focus on Hezbollah, while Prime Minister Netanyahu prefers to prioritize Gaza and deal with Hezbollah later. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant wants to escalate against Hezbollah. So looks like more pressure on Netanyahu to strike Hezbollah. Here's a picture coming out of northern Israel tonight showing a strike by Hezbollah on northern Israel. And here we have some video footage coming out of Syria. Apparently, Syria and Russia are doing joint exercises. So here we have Syrian and Russian air forces participating in an exercise. You can see the fighter jets here, and they're not just going to be doing air exercises, but also ground exercises together. So this is biblical, guys. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 38 and 39, talks about this massive invasion of Israel by Russia and a coalition of Middle Eastern countries and potentially Asian countries as well. Okay, and we're seeing the beginning stages of this. Russia has a huge air base in Syria. They have Russian troops right on the border of Israel, guys. And now they're doing these joint exercises with Syria. This is very serious, guys. Okay, this is biblical. All right, so get right with God. And Hamas rejected the Israeli ceasefire proposal. So that's not a good sign. And there was some type of a car bomb in Tel Aviv tonight. Not sure who got potentially killed or who was targeted. We'll have to find out in the coming hours. And an American B-1 supersonic nuclear capable bomber conducted live fire training in South Korea for the first time in 7 years, conducting runs with 500-pound bombs. It's the first time the B-1 Lancer, a conventional long-range penetrating striker bomber with a substantial payload capacity, has dropped live munitions on the Korean Peninsula since 2017, when the U.S. regularly sent the aircraft into the area in response to North Korean provocations. The U.S. Air Force released information on the training on Wednesday, writing that a B-1 Lancer from the 37th Expeditionary Bomb Squadron at Andersen Air Force Base in Guam joined South Korean F-15 Slam Eagles for live munitions and close air support training at the Pilsung Range in South Korea. The bomber, along with the South Korean military aircraft, successfully released live GBU-38 500-pound JDAM munitions, simultaneously striking multiple simulated targets. And the U.S. Congress approved a foreign military sale of $220 million worth of spare parts for F-16s for Taiwan. And this comes just a day after it was announced that Taiwan started to place sea mines along their northern coast and around the port of Zhuhai. Okay, so this is very serious, guys. The U.S. Congress giving spare parts for F-16s for Taiwan, and Taiwan mining their northern coast. Okay, that is not a coincidence. They're preparing for war. And what you're looking at here are the flight paths of some nuclear war command and control planes that were up in the air earlier this evening. We had 4 nuclear war command and control planes up in the air this evening, and there were, I think, 1 or 2 up in the air earlier this afternoon. So that's like a total of 5 or 6 just in the last 12 hours or so. That is a lot, guys. And these planes are responsible for communicating with our nuclear armed submarines. Okay, they drop a huge antenna out the back of the plane. It's like a giant fishing reel. They spool out like a mile long antenna, a giant wire, and they fly in circles. And when they fly in circles, that antenna or the wire is vertical, and then they can communicate with the nuclear armed submarines, and they can penetrate through the water with VLF, very low frequency. Okay. Here we have the flight path of a U.S. Air Force nuke sniffer plane that flew from Offutt Air Base, home of STRATCOM, Strategic Command, and it went to Anchorage, Alaska. This is usually a transit point. When they send them to Anchorage, that's a transit point. They stay there, let's say, 1 day, and then from Anchorage, they fly to Asia. So we're sending a nuke sniffer to Asia now. That is very concerning. Potentially, North Korea is going to be doing some testing soon, maybe in the coming days. And here we have a B-1 strategic bomber that was looping over the Black Hills earlier this afternoon. Here we have a P-3 Orion sub-hunter that was patrolling the eastern Mediterranean. Very, very interesting and very uncommon. And tonight, right now, we have a reconnaissance plane flying along the DMZ in Korea. And then we also have a sub-hunter just south of Taiwan over here. So very serious situation in Asia. Here's the flight path of those 2 B-52 nuclear bombers that flew all the way to Lebanon Monday night. This is very, very serious, guys. Okay, I can't remember ever B-52s flying all the way to Lebanon and coming back. That is very unusual. And then here we have some Russian VIP and doomsday planes that have been flying to Belarus the last 3 nights. This was last night, and then this was the night before, 2 of them. And then the night before that, another one. So something's brewing in Belarus. And then last night, we had all these aerial refuelers that went down to Baja, California, and they were there for a short while, and then they turned around and came back. And this is the same area where Russia was going to launch missiles into the sea. They put out a NOTAM, the FAA put out a NOTAM for Russia launching missiles into this area. So very interesting. But now we have Russia moving warships into the Caribbean Sea, and they're going to stay there all summer long. That is very, very suspicious. Here we have video footage of that Russian S-400 missile battery that was destroyed by Ukrainian HIMARS. Okay, this is a huge deal. Okay, this is a huge deal. And here we have video footage of the U.S. B-1 bomber launching the bombs onto targets in South Korea for the first time in 7 years. So you can see the F-15, the South Korean F-15 releasing some kind of bomb there.
Keep it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow. Wow, splash.
Wow, look at that, guys. That's insane.
4-2 splash in 20 seconds. Telling my fast crashed.
It's like Call of Duty.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
So very, very serious, guys. And we currently have some tornadoes working their way across Delaware into southern New Jersey. These tornadoes hit some suburbs of DC in Maryland. So here we have the current radar loop of southern New Jersey. You can see this red square here, and that is where there's a tornado warning. And there was actually a tornado that touched down in Gaithersburg, Maryland, a suburb of DC, just right outside of DC. Let me show you guys some footage from that. Absolutely insane. And we currently have a lot of sunspots that are facing Earth right now, but none of them are super active. So the chances of strong solar flares are going to be low over the next few days, but you never know. One of these sunspots could release a solar flare. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back tomorrow with more breaking news, and I will be going live tomorrow night. Follow me on Telegram and Twitter. I post all my videos there and also other content. I'll leave the links to my Telegram and Twitter. In the comments down below, but it's at NYPrepper1 on Twitter and NYPrepper1 on Telegram. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. Culinary out.